And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
Attention, roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. We got a lot of content for you. It's Monday morning. Good morning, everyone. NYPD fraternal organizations have dinner with Andrew Cuomo. What are your immediate thoughts? My immediate thoughts, well, who's going to be man of the year? And at this point, it appears to be the man of the year award is already printed out. The template's there. It's just insert name. If Mamdani wins, insert his name. If it's Andrew Cuomo, insert his name. So if you have an opportunity, I wrote an article about the NYPD Hispanic Society being more of a political club than a brotherhood. So if you have an opportunity, check it out. Go to thefinanceunfiltered.com. Make sure you take a look at our newsletter and, of course, articles. Take a look. Let me get your thoughts. John, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I think there was a lot of outrage about the NYPD Hispanic Society having dinner with Andrew Cuomo. Obviously, everybody was talking about it online. Everybody was DMing us, sending us in text messages like, "Look at these sellouts. Look at these guys." And I think what it is like it's just like this air of elitism that politicians have in New York, that the unions have in New York, that the NYPD leadership has in New York, and now that the NYPD fraternal organizations have, where they believe that they're better than the people they serve. They're elected to serve on the behalf of Hispanic members in the NYPD. And are you really serving them when you going out to dinner with a guy like Andrew Cuomo? I mean, and I think that's the outrage there. Like, Cuomo has done so much bad stuff in New York that there were thousands upon thousands of families and officers' families who were affected as a direct result of the policies that he put into place that can never forgive Andrew Cuomo. And then to go and have a secretive dinner with him where it's not a transparent dinner. We don't know what was discussed in that dinner. We don't know what, if anything, was related to public safety, to the harm that Andrew Cuomo has caused so many of those families. And I think that's why there's so much outrage. It's completely different. Like, if we had Andrew Cuomo on him, yeah, we get a little bit of hate, but nobody would be really mad because they would know exactly what the conversation was. As opposed to, oh, don't worry about it. We're going to take care of it. Yeah, we're going to talk to him. Don't worry about it. We're going to talk to him about that. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Morning, guys. Hope everyone had a great weekend. It's pretty well, my weekend was basically spent on Twitter going back and forth with a lot of people, and I got down another rabbit hole with Bill Aikman, but we'll get to that as we go on. And interestingly enough, I think it relates to this because brotherhood doesn't exist anymore. They are 100% a political organization and 100% looking after self-interest rather than the long-term health of the department. And what I think is happening is it's much more than just trying to get the Hispanic Society to advocate for Cuomo. I think it's Cuomo beginning to kind of get the unions ready to advocate for something else, which he plans to do, and he's already announced in his policy plan. So, but we'll get to that as we go around. Yeah, but that's it for me.
Well, I think at this point, it's important to note that the NYPD Hispanic Society is a fraternal organization. And what's the purpose of a fraternal organization? It's about camaraderie. It's about brotherhood. And to me, that's why it's important. If you have an opportunity to take a look at the article, it's a short article. It's an easy read, but I think it hits the point. And the point is this. They're looking more like a political club. Now, if they sat down with Andrew Cuomo, they sat down with Zohran Mamdani and Curtis Sliwa and made an announcement to their members, to the entire NYPD, to the unions, to the public, and said, well, we're having to sit down with all the candidates because we want to advocate for our members. We want to advocate for our organization and the entire NYPD, for other fraternal organizations, to make sure that our members are getting the amenities and benefits on a general whole, the entire NYPD. Then I could say, okay, now I understand. You're vetting the candidates and you're looking out for your people, but that's not what we see. So no longer do we see camaraderie and we see the culture of brotherhood. We see political clubs, and it's about what amenities they can get. And to me, it's just another disappointment. And it's at the point where you have to ask yourself, if you want to be a part of a fraternal organization, and if you do, what is the purpose? What is behind that? Are you there for the brotherhood, or are you there because it might be an avenue to get promoted? It might be another network or connection, a political connection. And it's unfortunate. I mean, we're talking about the father of godfather of bail reform. He removed qualified immunity. Well, at least it was his actions that led New York City Council to remove qualified immunity. 43 cop killers removed. I mean, it's at the point where you're sitting down with the enemy, and that's the key right there. In bed with the enemy. We see it with the unions, and we see it with the fraternals.
Yeah, no. When I put the picture out there, I put New Jack City. I put Nino Brown saying, "Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper?" Right? And and the reason I did that is because it really is a lot darker than just like on the political spectrum. It's really like a direct attack, not only on the rank and file of the NYPD, not only on public safety, but on their own members. Detective Familia was murdered in the line of duty. She was assassinated. Her daughter had to drop out of school. Her eldest daughter had to drop out of school and basically raise her siblings. Now, Andrew Cuomo was the governor when this happened, and there was a big push from the NYPD Hispanic Society, from the police unions, from both the PBA and the Detectives Endowment Association to allow Detective Familia's eldest daughter to have her pension benefits, to allow to get and really, like, is it a lot of money? Like, come on, she was I know posthumously she was promoted to detective first grade, but in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. It's not a lot of money at all, but it's something that would have helped the family go on and survive. And Andrew Cuomo could have just, with a stroke of a pen, said, yeah, let Detective Familia's daughter get entitled to her health benefits and her pension. But he didn't. He completely ignored it, even though they advocated for it. And then on his way out, you know what he did? He didn't say, oh, yeah, no, I'm going to help out this family. I'm going to help out these poor kids. I'm going to help out this single mother that gave her life to defend New York City. No, what did he do? He released more cop killers on his way out the door. That's what he did. When he left, when he resigned his post as commissioner, he didn't just go out the door and with his head down. No, he signed away to release cop killers. And so people buttoning up to him, it's disgraceful. And it's no less disgraceful than Lisa Abbasi or Tom Sheets Harrison. It's no less disgraceful than the other organizations. And I see all he is, and I know some of you have a problem with what I posted. All he is throwing rose petals at the feet of Mondani, and that's what you're doing. You might not be doing it publicly, but I know what you're doing. I know a lot more than what I put on, a lot. So I don't regret anything that I've posted online, because I know exactly what I said for a reason. And that's what I'm saying. You have fraternal organizations throwing rose petals at the feet of Zohran Mondani. And here you go. You have the NYPD Hispanic Society throwing rose petals at the feet of Andrew Cuomo. It's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I just, I think they hate you, and that's why, not just, I'm not referring to you, John. I'm saying that the city as a whole and government as a whole hate you, the employee. They really do. You look at all the things that has happened to say, let's take a look at the CCRB, for instance. Look at all the changes under Adams. Look at the proposed changes under Mamdani. Look at the people they put up on it, including retired chiefs, who vote against you. Look at the health. Look at what they want to do to the healthcare benefits. Like Adams wants to do the healthcare benefits for retirees. You did your 20. You you try to provide service as best you can to the city. You did as they told you. You had a good career. You finished their career with 20 years. Now they want to change your retirement. So your retiree benefits. So you're getting less benefits for more money. Look at the scamdemic. They mandated a medical experiment to you. Okay. Look at what they want to do to your pensions. They want to use your pensions to invest in nonsense. They hate you. Okay. They don't like you. Okay. So, the things Cuomo does, none of this surprises me, because they don't think much of its work. The city doesn't think much of its workers and doesn't appreciate workers. They certainly don't appreciate the NYPD, because if they did, as we've talked many times on here, they would look for quality rather than just to fill the seats in the academy. And they wouldn't be trying to, replace them with, as we said before, AI and robotics. So you need to keep that in mind when you see things like this, and what could have been an easy signature on a paper to give the family benefits that they should rightfully deserve, considering the tragedy that happened to their mother. It didn't happen. It's because they don't like you.
First of all, I just want to say, Marlon, you're spot on, brother, because that was always the sell. When I was a delegate for the union, for the LBA, Lieutenants Benevolent Association, that was always the sell at the meetings. We need to endorse, rhetorically speaking, we need to endorse Democrat A and Democrat B, whatever positions they were. And I remember sitting there thinking, wow, that person is a complete opposition. That person has bias and disdain towards police work. And we were told, well, we need to get behind that Democrat because we don't have any friends in Albany. So it's the only chance to get any legislation passed on behalf of the cops. And yet it's laughable, right? Because even when there was money being funded to legislators that are anti-cop, we've seen it with Kathy Hochul. All the proposals went right in the trash. So it didn't make a difference. It didn't make a difference. So that's why I say the unions and the fraternals, they're in bed with the enemy. Because they're sitting there with Andrew Cuomo, who said in 2020 and gave a deadline, if you don't reform your law enforcement agencies by such and such date, you're not going to get funding. And what was that? That was defund the police. That was his way of defunding the police, in my opinion. Why? Because the deadline wasn't a realistic deadline. Why? Because while the law enforcement agencies in New York State, especially the NYPD, were mandated for reform, we were battling ridiculous lockdowns by COVID and also battling riots, not protests, riots on a nightly basis in knee-jerk reaction to George Floyd. And the police department was expected to make reforms while they're bogged down with trying to keep the city safe. So to me, that was the backhanded slap to reform the NYPD and defund the police. And yet the Hispanic Society sits with them and they're cheesing with him. They're sitting there smiling, right? They got their arms around him. They're pointing, showing him around. This is the guy that wanted to emasculate your profession. And you know what? He did. This is the guy that is responsible for the deaths of maybe of some of your family members in nursing homes. This is the guy that's responsible. He put the idea where the New York City Council ran with it and removed qualified immunity. This is the guy. This is the reason why your fellow police officers are being trashed with their 50A, with their public information being taunted. Rob Lukash says it perfect right here. All the Hispanic members should be outraged. Their dues went to the board supporting Cuomo. Absolutely. If you're in the Hispanic Society, if you're in that organization, you should be shocked. Wow. This is where my dues are going? Are you getting those amenities? I don't know. This is a disappointment, and it makes them look even more pathetic than they already do. Cue the photo. That's what we say. Cue the photo. Get in the photo. Get in the photo. That's what this is about. Get in the photo, and what do you get out of it?
Oh yeah, and this, like I said, it's the same elitism, and in this photo too is a DEA treasurer. I'm sorry, DEA Sergeant at Arms Gilberto Ortiz. And and if you go through the Hispanic Society photos, you see there's a photo of just Gil sitting next to Cuomo, and he's like talking to him. So don't think for 1 second the unions aren't already trying to angle here too. This is just more of the same. And that's why I'm saying it's like that elitist mindset. We know what's better for you. Just listen to us. Don't worry that we just got rid of your healthcare and retirement, and now we're switching your healthcare while you're active. Like, don't worry for any of that. You know what I mean? Don't worry about that. We know better than you. You guys don't need to know what happened at that meeting. We're gonna be there for Cuomo. And again, I'm gonna say it again. You know, what's his face? Who's the kid that runs this? Joe Ayala. Good cop, right? Turned politician. He's been the politician for the last 3.5 years under the Adams administration. He donated, I believe, $2,100 to Eric Adams' mayoral run. And that was a waste of money, right? You should have took my advice, bro, because I told you he had no shot. And I'm going to tell everybody again on here. Andrew Cuomo has 0 chance to win the election. 0. Absolutely 0 chance to win this election. There is none. Do you know what Cuomo's chance is? Is if somehow Zohran Mamdani drops out of the race. That's how Andrew Cuomo wins. Andrew Cuomo, if Curtis Sliwa drops out today, most Sliwa voters don't vote. It's that simple. They're not going to be like, oh, yeah, no, I'm going to vote for the guy that killed my father. Oh, yeah, I'm going to vote for the guy that shut my business. Oh, yeah, I'm going to vote for the guy that kicked me out of my career. No, they're going to stay home. Andrew Cuomo needs every Sliwa voter to win. Sliwa does not need Andrew Cuomo voters to win. If Republicans stay strong, he wins. It's that simple. And on the other end of the spectrum, a Cuomo voter will vote for Curtis Sliwa. But a Sliwa voter will never vote for an Andrew Cuomo. So, I mean, this whole thing is a joke. What these people are doing, what they're doing, what Scott Monroe is doing, what the unions are doing, what the Hispanic Society is doing, what they're doing is they're helping Zohran Mamdani to get elected. Andrew Cuomo knows exactly what he's doing. He's trying to get Zohran Mamdani elected. He's running the same exact campaign he ran in the primary. And what happened there? An unknown 33-year-old socialist shellacked him. He's running the same campaign. How could we possibly sit here and think he could win? It's insane to me. What they're doing here is they're setting up because they know what ultimately Andrew Cuomo's looking for. He doesn't want to be the mayor of New York City. He's looking for higher office. How does he get to higher office? He needs to get himself back in the good graces of the Democratic Party. How does he do that? He needs to be in with the people that control the Democratic Party. Who controls the Democratic Party? Radical DSA socialists. It's that simple. This is I'm going to help you get in, and you're going to help me get my seat back.
Hey, you think the Man of the Year award, you think the ink is dry yet? Or you think it's still drying up right now, trying to figure out whose name to put in there?
Oh, wait till Zohran gets in. You know,
Yeah.
That's what this is what they're doing. They're trying to help Zohran Mamdani get in. They already got Lisa Abbasi's name up there on that.
Yeah, you know they did. They do.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
See, I see the haters already out. I see a new face in the chat there. Terminate all SJWs. I'd like to welcome you to the Finest Unfiltered, brother. You know, we're open, free speech platform, so you're welcome in to hate all you want. But listen,
thanks for being a fan.
You really need to understand how the Hegelian dialectic works. Okay. The Uniparty owns both sides. If you're thinking Cuomo and Mamdani are like opposite sides, they're not. They're not. Okay. You need to realize that Mamdani was a nobody months ago, and now all of a sudden, he's the new AOC. Everybody around the country is talking about him. You know, people in West Bubba, wherever, they know who Mamdani is now. You know, people in New York didn't even know who he was a couple months ago. You see, what they're doing is they've gamed both sides of it so that it doesn't matter whether Cuomo or Mamdani wins. You're getting the same things. You look at their policy statements, it's the same thing. Okay. Mamdani's policies for housing is Eric Adams' policy for the city of Yes. Okay. Cuomo says in his own papers that what he's going to do is not too dissimilar from what Brad Lander had proposed. Okay, and the other socialists. It's they've gamed both sides, and you need to stop thinking that if you're voting for Cuomo, you're going to you're going to get some sort of rational policy. Okay, and the other thing you see, if to go back on that, what they're doing is making Mamdani a relevant counter movement figure, okay, which appeals heavily to the leftist socialist base of the Democrat Party, who are young people, okay. Without doing that, they have no way to motivate the young people to get out there, okay. Democrats have no policy anymore, and they're in such a between a rock and a hard place that changing policy means you have no Democrat Party at all, because all their existing policies have led to the problems that young people are facing now. So what do? They create a straw man, which has boosted up the notoriety of Mamdani, and now young people are in love with him, thinking that he's basically fighting the man or fighting the establishment. No, he's part of the establishment. He's a wealthy elitist, just like Cuomo. Okay. Neither one of them, we talked about on Friday, could tell you where any of the blue collar, anything blue collar people like we mentioned sports last week. Okay. Both of these guys, these are people who hang out in the Hamptons and hang out in Dubai. They're not like you. Okay. So you guys who are hating, you need to understand this. Okay. Because you're going to be very disappointed when you vote for Cuomo and he gives you the same things that you thought you were voting not to get. So.
Well, I think about this. I say to myself, right? These fraternal organizations say they fight for their members. They stick up for their members. It's a place to have camaraderie. It's a place to have brotherhood. But they're cozying up to politicians that have been responsible for dismantling the police. And if you ask me, Andrew Cuomo dismantled the NYPD even more than Eric Adams, even more than former Mayor Bill de Blasio, because he was the governor of New York and he's responsible for legislation that has affected and made cops more vulnerable in the streets today. If you look at the vulnerability of the cops right now, Andrew Cuomo is behind that. I'm not giving a pass to former Mayor Bill de Blasio, and I'm not giving a pass to Eric Adams. But if we're talking about the whole ball of wax here, Andrew Cuomo arguably might be the king of defund the police, because he's responsible for that legislation. He's responsible for raise the age, which allowed young teenage males to commit violent crimes and be unaccounted for. He's responsible for the repeal of the 50A, which made it vulnerable for police officers out in the street. Many of our friends and listeners remember on several episodes, we put out a young lady, a female police officer, getting taunted by agitators because of the 50A. And who's behind that? Andrew Cuomo. We talked about bail reform. We talked about discovery laws. Who's behind that? Andrew Cuomo. Who allowed the streets to be decimated during the George Floyd riots? That was Andrew Cuomo. And now the Hispanic Society is sitting down with Andrew Cuomo, having cheesy smiles. Look. You know what? I think Andrew Cuomo's smiling like, look at you suckers. You're actually taking a picture with me. So when we played the last episode on Friday, when we did the roundtable with that bum loser who was giving up all the information about the cops and the plan for Zohran Mamdani, he was spot on. Don't worry about the cops. Don't worry about the city employees. They're going to do what they're told to do. And you're right, Marlon. There's a complete hate, bias, and disdain for police. It's the politicians, it's the media, it's the Civilian Complaint Review Board. And it's open, it's public. They hate the cops. Every piece of legislation that we see to emasculate the police is to defund them and to tear them down because of the hate and the bias and the disdain. Just a complete disdain for the uniform. And yet we sit down with the same people that are responsible for allowing cop killers in the street. You're allowing The man that like cop killers in the street, you're going to put your arm around them and say, oh, let's take a picture. That's okay. Joey Ayala, all these guys, they're nice guys. I love it. NYPD has more nice guys than anywhere. You want to meet nice guys? Go to the NYPD.
Serious question, though, for both of you. Because I think I keep hearing Marlon think that, like, Cuomo could win. And I'm sitting here and I don't see a path to victory for him. I see the same thing with Adams. I'm curious. Like, it's okay if you think that, but I just want to know, like, what you see. Do you think Cuomo, the state of the race right now, do you think Cuomo could actually win and become the mayor of New York City?
Do I think Cuomo could actually win? I mean, well, look, no, the thing is, I'm not sure we could predict a lot of what's going on right now because I think there's so much money pushing influences and there's so much, like, remember I said I thought Eric Adams could still win. The reason why I said that was because it wasn't based on Eric Adams' skill as a politician, or his record, or the strength of his campaign. It was based on the outside influences and how they would try to electioneer this election for him. And what have we seen? We see guys like Aikman come in, and then we see all the social media influences, and now that industrial complex has gotten behind Andrew Cuomo. So I'm not saying that Andrew Cuomo could win on his strength. Okay, I'm saying he could win. I'm saying basically he could win because they're going to cheat for him. Okay, but I think the entire game is set up to have Mamdani get into City Hall, and I can give you many reasons why, but I mean it's you've just mentioned it, but I think the entire game is set up for Mamdani because he's a younger face. And he, the Democrats are, I think they're looking at him as the future, and not Cuomo.
John, I think that's an awesome question, right? So I think about technically and reality, right? So technically, can Cuomo win? Yes, right? Because when it comes to politics, any campaign could shift and things can move. And that's why I say the special interest groups behind Mamdani or Andrew Cuomo or special interest elites could move the needle. But realistically, I don't think he has a fat chance in hell. Honestly, I think Cuomo knows exactly what he's doing. And I said this in the last episode when we spoke on Friday Roundtable. I don't think Cuomo actually gives a shit about winning, honestly. I think this is a step of redemption, right? Because I've said it before, and I've actually seen it in real time, and I've seen it live. Traveling the entire country by RV. Yes, you can see I'm not in the RV today. I'm actually traveling right now. But what I've seen by traveling, RV or just traveling in general, is that everyone knows who is the mayor of New York City or who is running for it. You want to talk about name recognition? Become New York City mayor. I think far more people know the name of New York City mayor than they do the governor of New York State. New York City mayor is a high-profile position, I would say, in the entire world. People even know who the mayor is of New York City is. So I think this is a case of redemption. Andrew Cuomo gets to redeem himself, gets his name out there. He's hugging and shaking hands and cueing the photo with the Hispanic Society. He's about to get his Man of the Year award. So his name is back in the hat. But the reality is, I don't think he has a chance in hell to win. I think him actually being in the race is giving it away to Mamdani even more.
No, yeah. I mean, like I said, I've been consistent about everything, man, and I'm being dead honest. Like I'm watching, and I agree. I agree with Marlon, and I agree with you, Eric. Like this is the whole thing is being propagated by billionaires. This is a COVID level style propaganda campaign. The same thing that I said about Eric Adams. I'm like, he has no shot. You're just being gaslit. You just have all this money and you're listening to Fox News, you're listening to the New York Post, you're listening to the polls. The guy has no shot. It makes no sense. It fails on its face. And it's the same thing with Cuomo's campaign. When you look at his campaign, he has none. You're like, this guy's staying in the race. Who's he trying to win over? Is he trying to win over Zohran Mamdani voters? No. Who is Zohran Mamdani voters? His voters. So who's he trying to win over? Conservatives and Republicans. And Fox News is gaslighting you. And Bill Ackman, who's been donating to Andrew Cuomo, billionaire Bill Ackman, who's been donating to Andrew Cuomo his entire political career. So Bill Ackman brought you bail reform. Bill Ackman brought you raise the age. Bill Ackman brought you less is more. Bill Ackman brought you crimes high. When you look at all that stuff, you sit there and you go, why is he trying to peel Curtis Sliwa voters? Like, he's not going to get them. He can't. Like, even the reverse engineered and almost 100% of the time inaccurate polls are sitting there and saying that Andrew Cuomo can't get any Sliwa voters. Most of Sliwa voters will not vote for Andrew Cuomo. So when you look at that, you're like, why is he doing that? Oh, I know why he's doing that. Because he's working directly, like we told you 4 or 5 months ago. It was a 3-card Mondani with Eric Adams. Eric Adams' card got bent, so now it's a 2-card Mondani. You vote for Mondani or you vote for Cuomo, you're getting Mondani. Mondani has the base of the Democratic Party. Andrew Cuomo, in my opinion, is a complete spoiler candidate. I do not see a path to victory. What's happening right now in the mayoral race, and I'm just going to put this on the as just an analysis of what's. Just think about what's happening to all the people out there, all of you Republicans, conservatives, moderates, and centrists. Just think about this. 2028 presidential election comes around. Ilhan Omar, this is hypothetical. Ilhan Omar, radical Muslim, member of Congress, Democratic Party, member of the DSA, she beats out Gavin Newsom for the Democratic primary. Who's Gavin Newsom? Gavin Newsom's an elitist, far left, progressive, just like Andrew Cuomo. He's Andrew Cuomo's half-Irish cousin, right? Like, that's all he is. He's a loser, right? Progressive. He loses to Ilhan Omar. And now the GOP, the Republican Party, Fox News, the New York Post, and all these hacked social media influencers that look like they're Democrats. They don't really look like conservative dudes to me. They look like, like, does Benny Johnson really look like a conservative to you? Do any of these guys, does Matt Walsh really look like a conservative? Do any of these guys really fit the bill of what they claim to be? Like, come on, they really don't. They're just not those guys. It's just not them. And like, all these hacks, Joey Salads, Ben Tel Aviv, all these guys, they start telling you, all right, tell the Republican nominee, J.D. Vance, he needs to drop out in order to save America. And we got to get behind Gavin Newsom. And you fucking idiots are getting behind Gavin Newsom. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, this is the same exact play. This is what they're doing. They're telling you, we as Republicans need to save the Democratic Party. And at the end of the day, I personally believe Curtis Sliwa has the best chance of victory since Rudy Giuliani of any Republican in New York City. I believe we could run away with this race. Run away with it. We just need morals and integrity and a pair of balls, and we run away with this race, right? I personally believe it. I know that it's possible. I've been saying it since before I even knew who the candidates were. Before I even knew who was going to be running, I've been saying this. We could win this election, right? And now I'm watching it get stolen because we're saying that, no. We need to save the Democratic Party. Forget the Republican Party. It's lost. And if we do that here in New York, it will have national implications. That will go over to the midterms. That will go over the presidential primary. The Republican Party's finished. It's over.
Well, you know what? Then let me ask this question then. Since we're talking about Bill Ackman, we're talking about Andrew Cuomo, now we're talking about Curtis Sliwa, we're talking about Zohran Mamdani. Let's talk about logic, right? If we talk about logic, and Marlon, I guess this is for you because we're talking about Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman has told. What happened to John? Took a break. Bill Ackman has told Curtis Sliwa that he needs to drop out because if he doesn't drop out, it's a guaranteed win for Zohran Mamdani. But doesn't the same logic apply for Andrew Cuomo? Wouldn't the same logic apply that if Andrew Cuomo doesn't drop out? Because Andrew Cuomo ultimately is splitting the vote, right? Because he's not getting the Republican votes, right? So the people that are on the fence when it comes to Zohran Mamdani, their votes will go to Andrew Cuomo. So it's Andrew Cuomo that's splitting the votes. So the same logic that applies with John, I knew you were gone for a second, but I was saying if we test logic here, Bill Ackman is telling Curtis Sliwa he needs to drop out so that Zoran Mamdani doesn't win. But doesn't the same logic apply? Cuomo needs to drop out so that Zoran Mamdani doesn't win.
It's actually, sorry to cut you off, Maul, but it's actually worse than that because he's saying Curtis Sliwa needs to drop out so that I might have a chance to win. I don't see that even if Curtis Sliwa drops out, he wins. I don't see how he wins. I don't see the numbers. But if Andrew Cuomo drops out, or Andrew Cuomo doesn't even drop out, and the Republicans just stay strong, Curtis Sliwa wins. Andrew Cuomo drops out. Most of those moderate, centrist, weak Republicans, soft conservatives, weak men with no spine, no pair of balls, the one that make their wives' boyfriends breakfast in the morning on fucking Sundays after they were just getting their wife was just getting drilled out by them. Those guys, they
call them cuts.
And they vote for Curtis Sliwa, and Curtis Sliwa wins. Like, it's not hard math here. Like, this isn't hard.
That's my point.
I've been in summer school every year. I don't see, like, it's worse than, it's not even the same logic. It's worse. Everyone that's saying that Sliwa should be dropping out should be pushing it on Cuomo. Like, drop out or shut your mouth, but nobody's voting for you, guy. He should understand that he's a lame duck. He got kicked out of his party. He's done. We're not saving you. You're not a Republican. You're a far left progressive. That's it.
That's why I think that Marlon's right, because Bill Ackman knows damn well the guy's got a lot of money. He knows damn well if he's pushing behind Cuomo and telling Curtis Sliwa to drop out, Zoran Mamdani wins. That's why, Marlon, I think you're spot on. Spot on.
Well, I mentioned this last week. I think I understand why. Listen, they're pivoting towards Zohan. Okay, there's no question that they're trying to build this guy up. The question is why, and I think the question I tend to zoom out and look at the big picture, and I just can't help it because the biggest lesson I learned from the scamdemic is that you're not going, if you just look at things at this, if you look at it from a narrow lens, you're not going to understand it. A lot of the logic, it's just not going to make sense, And in a lot of ways, them telling Curtis to drop out is like the COVID, is like the scamdemic logic, Remember when they said, get the shot to stop the spread, but the shot itself doesn't stop the spread? You need to get a booster, huh? This goes back to what John said. This is
like right, brother.
Level of propaganda and deception going on. And so I said I like to zoom out and look at the big picture. In this case, the big picture is that the Uniparty is clearly making a pivot towards Indians and South Asians. It is clearly moving in that direction. And the reason why is because we're pivoting away from China and into India. And New York City is the financial capital, or it used to be. Things are changing in this world, but New York City used to be a financial hub of the world, okay? And New York City deals with a lot of, people don't realize this, but there's a lot of backdoor money that comes from China into New York City, in particular to real estate, okay? The backdoor money comes into luxury real estate and it gets parked there, and they use it as an asset that just, and like an asset, but they never live in it. Those $25 million apartments I've said in Midtown, nobody live in it. They park the money. In a couple of years, it's now worth 30 million. It's worth 35 million. Then they sell it, and they use it to launder their capital across borders. Okay, and now that we're pivoting away from China, China is going to soon block all avenues of its elites from laundering their money into New York State real estate. So where's the West moving? They're pivoting towards India, and they're pivoting towards moving their factories in India. And this is why you're seeing the elevation of and the targeting of that community, and this is why I believe that the Uniparty wants to push Mamdani.
Marlon, I think you're spot on. By the way, I just want to say, awesome comment by Joel Ramirez. Joel Ramirez says, Eric and John, who's the lesser of the two evils? And I think that's a great That's a great comment because it makes you realize, and I think it points out that, and especially when you watch the debate, they want New Yorkers to believe that it's a two-man race, that it's come down to the Independent Party and the Democratic Party, and the Republican Party's not even showing up. And you know what? I hate to say it. I used to joke around when John and I started this podcast. John, there's no Republican Party in New York, just progressive light. I'm like, Joe, dude, what are you talking about? Come on. Like, we got to push for the Republicans. And you know what? He's right. Because that's why it's a great comment. Who's the lesser of two evils? Because even with the debate, the moderators made, or at least they tried to create the illusion that there wasn't a three-man race, that there's no Republican man. It's Zohran Mamdani or Andrew Cuomo, and to make Curtis Sliwa look like he was just a referee or just some guy that showed up to have a conversation with them. But it's not a two-man race. It's a three-man race right now. If you ask me, it's sort of like a fraction. It's Curtis Sliwa and Zohran Mamdani and Cuomo splitting the vote together. So the reality is the only person that's whole in this race is Curtis Sliwa. But the Republicans are doing a terrible job. And because Marlon's right, it's the uni party, and it's about the elites, and it's about the special interest groups, and we've been saying this for a while, who've got money behind this. And I think, Marlon, you pointed out the real estate with the Chinese is huge. And we saw the effects during Cuomo. How many empty lots or empty real estate locations in New York City were bought out by the Chinese and they never even went there? They never even been there. They don't live there. They never even visited, and they just paid for it and own it. So you're spot on, brother.
Look, and this was a chart that I made. I didn't come up with Cuomo Republicans. Dan Romania did, but I am adopting that into my language now because that's what they are. And what I was always saying to you, Eric, I was like, they're progressive light. They're not really the majority of elected Republicans. They're not really Republicans at all. They're not conservative at all. They're the same exact as what you're seeing in the Democratic Party. They just portray better for people who are like us, who are more conservative minded. So here's where the Cuomo Republicans lie. You see on the far left, you have Zohran Mamdani, who's right next to him. Andrew Cuomo, progressive. Here you are, Cuomo Republican. You're right here, right? This is where you are. Then you have Curtis Sliwa, who's probably more of a centrist than a conservative. But so who's the lesser of two evils behind Zohran Mamdani or Andrew Cuomo? That's like asking me, would I vote for Hitler or would I vote for Mussolini? That's like asking me, do I vote for Hillary Clinton or do I vote for Kamala Harris? Do I vote for Ilhan Omar or do I vote for Gavin Newsom? I mean, it's real simple. That is not a choice. That is the illusion of choice. That is the billionaires telling you what to do. For those of you conservatives that live in the red states, let me explain to you what a conservative really is. It's somebody like myself who, since I'm 21 years old, all my beliefs, my morals, and my principles, my city is directly in conflict with all of them. The people that are in charge of my city are directly in conflict with all of them. The candidates that I support lose elections often. But guess what? I still stay strong in my beliefs. I still stay strong onto who I am. I still vote. I don't care. I'm not going to give away who I am because the world has shifted. Right? Let the lie come into the world. Let it even take hold, but not through me. Right? That's not how it's not happening. I'm not. Who's the lesser of two evils? They're both evil son of a bitches. I'm not voting for either of them. They both destroy the NYPD. They both bring up crime in New York City. They both come after us, the working man. They both work for billionaires. I don't vote for a Zohran Mamdani or an Andrew Cuomo ever. And guess what? If you sat here and you told me that Curtis Sliwa had zero chance, and I even agreed with you. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? He had zero chance. I'm still voting for him. I'm still voting for Andrew Cuomo because you know what? Let Zohran Mamdani win. Let him show me his policies. Let me see what you got, bro. There's still laws in this country. He's not bringing in Sharia law into this country. And if he is, what are you saying? You're saying that Donald Trump's got no balls and he's inept and he's incompetent. I don't believe that. I think that Donald Trump is very competent. I think that the administration I have in is an administration I voted for them. Am I happy with everything they do? No. I'm not happy with any politician ever. But the bottom line is this. What's Zohran Mamdani going to do that Andrew Cuomo's not going to? What's Andrew Cuomo going to do that Zohran Mamdani's not going to do? They're both going to do the same shit. Lesser of two evils? I don't care who's the bigger devil. They're both devils.
Yeah, this whole Mamdani is bringing Sharia law nonsense is like ridiculous straw man. Okay, yeah, Mamdani is barely a Muslim. Okay, all right, and I've pointed out many times that the stuff that he supports is haram. Okay, it's forbidden. Okay, so again, to you, the Muslim Society and the Bengali Association, like, does Mamdani really, does he really align with your value system? But that's a straw man. We're not getting that nonsense. You're getting the same thing you're getting with Cuomo. You're getting corporatism, elitism. You're getting private public partnerships, which Zohan has said many times. You're getting, okay. You're getting an expansion of the surveillance state, and corporations sinking their fangs further into the NYPD. You're getting. We already pointed out last week what you're getting under Abbasi, okay, right? And you're getting more progressivism, okay. You're getting more tech. You're getting body cameras that are probably watching you even more so than they are now on duty, okay. You're getting a diminished police department of less competent people, but with more tech, so that the real decision making is again centralized at the top at 1PP. Okay, so this whole nonsense about Sharia law is a talking point that's pushed for you, law information people out there who you'll tell us, oh, we got to vote for Cuomo, but if we ask you what Cuomo's policies are, can you name a policy point? You don't know. That picture that the Hispanic Society take with Cuomo. Do you think anybody in there really knows what Cuomo's policies are? Ask them, see if they know. I bet they can't name one. Okay, all they could name is the talking points that Cuomo parrots on these interviews. They're not going to go into the minutia. Okay, and they don't know anything, the real policies, because if they really did, they'd realize that it's no different from Mamdani.
You know what, Marlon? That's a great point. That's a great point to actually signify. Does the Hispanic Society actually understand the implications of them cueing the photo and taking these cheesy pictures with Andrew Cuomo? Do they actually understand what they're saying? Because a picture is worth 1,000 words, is it not? So if we look at that picture of them smiling with Andrew Cuomo, they're saying it's Andrew Cuomo. Hey, thanks for bail reform. Thanks for discovery law. Thanks for raise the age. Thanks for all these anti-police legislations that made the job more difficult, made it more vulnerable, made the streets of New York City more dangerous. So you have to ask yourself, who's the less of the two evils? They're both evil. Cuomo destroyed the entire state, destroyed the entire city during COVID, and we still feel the effects today. And what Cuomo wants, if he was to win, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't think Cuomo gives a shit about winning at all. But if he does win, Cuomo wants full control. And we saw it during COVID. That's what he did. He took control of the entire state and ran it like it was a Nazi camp. And what Mamdani wants is complete revolution. He wants to revolutionize police work in the entire city to where it doesn't look like the city that we once knew. And the police department will be just something one-dimensional and something that will be unrecognizable. Because no longer will the NYPD be the top pecking order of public safety. They'll be at the bottom, and it's going to be run by social workers and who knows, maybe violence interrupters. So both of them are evil, and both are a disaster for New York City. And that's why those two names should be thrown in the garbage. And the only name that we should be having in this conversation is Curtis Lewa, especially if you're a New York City employee, especially if you're a law enforcement officer working for the NYPD wearing that blue uniform. The only name that should be slipping off your tongue is Curtis Lewa. That's the only person you should be taking a picture with is Curtis Lewa. Anything other than that is complete betrayal.
Yeah, and just like Rob brings up a great point here. He says Cuomo's an idiot if he thinks a fraternal organization is helping him. They aren't all he's getting a plaque. As far as I know, they don't have a PAC. So I agree with you that he's dumb for that. But what he's looking for is clout. He doesn't need money. Andrew Cuomo has all the billionaires and he doesn't need any money. He's good. Money's not an issue, so he doesn't care about the PAC. But what Andrew Cuomo's looking for is clout. He's looking to say that I'm the public safety mayor. How the father of bail reform, discovery law, raise the age, less is more, releasing 43 cop killers could now be a public safety mayor. How the person who denied Detective Familia's family her pension and health benefits, how he could now be the public safety mayor. It's ridiculous. And that's what I'm sitting here and I'm saying that, like, they're using people in law enforcement. And that's what these fraternals don't get. Like, they're so self-serving that they don't even see what's happening. They're being used for clout. They're being used to siphon votes. They're being used to ensure a Mondani victory. If Andrew Cuomo really wanted to win over police officers, what would he do? He would do what all the other candidates did. He would contact the Finest Unfiltered and say, hey, I'd like to come on and discuss all the issues you guys have with me. Right? And he hasn't. Why? Because he doesn't have a platform. He's full of shit. If you go into the minutia of it, it's horrendous. If you go into the minutia of it, it's Zohran Mondani. If you go into the minutia of it, it's just as evil as Mondani. He doesn't have a plan to save New York City. He doesn't have a plan to save the NYPD. He's not going to save you from CCRB. And you idiots are holding the water for him. Like, yeah, Joey Ayala. I shot the perp that assassinated Detective Familia, but I'm selling her kids out. I mean, am I my brother's keeper? Yeah, I am my brother's keeper because I hold my brothers accountable. Right? Are you your brother's keeper? No. What are you doing? You're kissing up and holding the water for people that directly harming all of us. So yeah, people don't like me. People don't like me in this profession, and that's fine because the truth is hard. It is what it is. But you know what? At least I'm telling the damn truth. What are you guys doing?
Don't worry, John. You'll sleep just fine, brother.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't know necessarily if I agree with you on that Cuomo is dumb for doing that, because, you know, I look back again at the scamdemic and I remember the DEA going around telling us that, oh, Eric Adams has your best interest in mind. You know, we got to vote. He's one of us. We got to vote for Eric Adams. You know, and there were guys who were just like eating it up. Like, yeah, he's a cop. He's a former cop. Yeah, I'm looking at my choices and I think Eric Adams is our best choice, is the best option. You know, they know most cops are low information. You know, the thing is, most people are low information. You know, most working class people are. They're just too busy in their day. You know, you have a long day, 9 to 5 work. You have kids. You have life. They're too busy to look at the policies. You know, they know that if you come at them with the talking points, you know, most of them are going to bite it up. So if the Hispanic Society goes around with you know, Cuomo talking points and starts, you know, talking up Mom Danny's going to bring in Sharia law, you know, a lot of them are going to bite it up. You know, I'd say most of them are going to do it. And again, I hinted at in the beginning that I think this is the start of something else, which is the talking points are going to soon go towards other things, which include the investments in the fact that they want to use, like Cuomo wants to use your pension to invest in affordable housing. I believe this is the start of that relationship. So eventually when that comes, the same people who are talking up Cuomo or and helping to continually boost Mamdani are going to be talking up the investments in pension. Whether it's Cuomo there who in City Hall or Mamdani, it doesn't matter because they both are going to do the same thing. So this is, I'm not so sure he's dumb for doing that because again, most cops, I'm sorry, you're low information. Okay.
You know what? I think that's a great point. I think after this discussion made me realize that not just the unions, but the fraternal organizations, maybe if they took less time away from photo ops and having their Man of the Year awards ready to go, maybe that's what they should do. They should educate themselves and educate their members on the practices, the legislation that was pushed by these politicians that are running for mayor of New York City and how it's affected the police department and how it will affect them going forward. Because I will say this, the media has done a great job of pushing this ideology, and even the police department, the fraternals and the unions have bought it, that Eric Adams was the savior for the city because if Mamdani wins, it's all over. And now that Eric Adams dropped out, the new savior is Andrew Cuomo because if Mamdani wins, it's all over. Everyone's going to leave the police department, this mass exodus. When they forget, the mass exodus was already here. It's still happening. Recruitment is at an all-time low. The morale is in the toilet. It's already here. And it's legislation that was created by Andrew Cuomo when he was the governor of New York State, along with former Mayor Bill de Blasio, running into Eric Adams as the mayor, someone else that took it off the cliff. And yet they've pointed their direction and they've pointed their perception. They've pointed their focus at Zohran Mamdani, who hasn't even been the mayor. Are his ideals absolutely in opposition to logic? Are they radical? Yes, but he's not even the mayor yet. And the mayors that have been here and the politics and legislation have not been accounted for on behalf of the fraternals and the unions because they bought this idea that everything's running fine. We got a contract. Yeah, of course you had a contract. You were out of a contract for 6 years. At some point, your contract had to get settled. And yet, you don't realize that the job has become worse and worse under this leadership, and Zohran Mamdani is not even the mayor yet. Does that mean he's great for New York City? No. But let's hold accountable who was present, who destroyed the law enforcement profession for the NYPD before Eric Adams and present day with Eric Adams, because Eric Adams is still the mayor. I think people are forgetting he dropped out of the race, but he didn't drop out. He's still the mayor. Eric Adams is still the mayor of New York City right now, and the failures are in his lap.
Yeah, and not that we're not just going to pick on the Hispanic Society here too. This is the New York Dominican Officers Organization, and look at the top. Look who they honored last Friday. Udonis Rodriguez, good friend to Eric Adams. What did Udonis Rodriguez support? Oh, that's right, defund the police. What else did he support? Oh, having illegals vote in New York City elections. Oh, that's right. So why are we awarding defund the police people? Why are we why is this happening? You know, I like this stuff. Like it's like they're like, oh, you guys just don't understand. It's like, no, I think we understand. I think that you guys really should just stay away from politics because you clearly don't understand what you're doing, who you're aligning with. And I think, you know, I don't think their intentions are as nefarious as the rank and file thinks they are, or as it's portrayed, like you see it publicly. Like, why would they do that? Listen, the average voter has no idea anything about their politician or what they've done and paid zero attention to it. And I think the same is true for the majority of people in the unions, on the boards, in the leadership, and also as well as in the elected office in these fraternals as well. I don't think they actually know who they're standing next to. I don't think they actually thought the thoughts. And so, like, to me, it's always like real. I'm just sitting there and I'm going, you people are morons. Like, you have no business getting involved in this political game unless you understand it, unless you studied it, unless you watch it, unless this is something that you know. You should really stay out of it because you're making yourself look like morons, honestly. And this stuff is always going to come up. For those of you that are seeking office later on, Pat Gordon, Joey, anyone else, this stuff's coming up, believe me. And I'm going to be the one to bring it up.
I tend to think it's a combination of low information and willful ignorance. You know, I think I kind of tend to think they know to some degree, but they're willfully ignorant of it because they're looking out for their own crumbs. And they're all trying to get as close as they can to the power centers and the people at the top. Now, I'm referring to the leadership of like the unions and a lot of these fraternals, like we're seeing with the Dominican Society here, and the Hispanic Society. I think they're looking at their own. The top is willfully ignorant because they're looking out for their future ambitions, and acknowledging the truth means kind of being honest to themselves what they're doing, and I don't think they want to do that.
I think at this point, honestly, and I think we've really hit the point home, is that fraternals and the unions are in bed with the enemy, and they're there for photo ops. And these photo ops, and I said it earlier, pictures mean 1,000 words. These photo ops are really just the surface of what goes on below that. And below that is who gets promoted, who has amenities, who has access, and that's what it's about. Marlon, I think you said that a while back on different episodes. I think you said it about Patrick Gordon, right? It's who's vying for access, and that's what this is about. Let's get to these politicians and let's get access. So if Cuomo is the guy that could get him access, they don't care if he wins or not. If that's the guy that could get him access, well, they'll take a couple of pictures. They'll be cheesing with him. They'll have their smiles. If Zohran Mamdani wins, sure as hell, remember I said it today, and I've heard it from every cop. I've been contacted numerous times. Oh, if Zohran Mamdani wins, there's going to be a mass exodus. The cops are leaving. It's over. I guarantee you, you're absolutely right, John. I guarantee, remember we said it here, the finest unfiltered today. If Zohran Mamdani wins, you will see pictures of union members with Zohran Mamdani smiling, the NYPD Hispanic Society and other fraternals. They will be taking pictures, smiling, cheesing it up. And you know what? They're going to tell you, we have to do it. We have to do it because we have to do it. Just, play nice in the sandbox just to get some support for the guys. They won't turn their back. They won't turn their back. Those days where we saw the entire police department turn their back on former Mayor Bill de Blasio, it doesn't happen anymore. That was the last will by the NYPD. The last time that we saw camaraderie, when Lou and Ramos were assassinated, and the entire police department felt the effects and turned their back at former Mayor Bill de Blasio during a funeral. That was the last time we'll ever see the camaraderie like that again. Because the Hispanic Society, and I'm telling you right now, and especially Joey Ayala, he took out the murderer, the person that assassinated in cold blood and executed Mitosis Familia. I mean, that was so sad. I was there that day. And you're taking pictures now with Andrew Cuomo, who's releasing cop killers. So who's turning their back on whom? Now it's time to think. You know what? There is a time to redeem yourselves, a redemption time. Turn your back on these politicians. Turn your back on these politicians that show complete hate, bias, and disdain for police work. It's legislation just like that was created by Andrew Cuomo, former Mayor Bill de Blasio, Eric Adams, Zohran Mamdani, all these legislators that have created maniac assassins that have took the lives of former cops, such as Lou and Ramos, such as Mitosis Familia. It's these legislations, these politicians that have weakened society and created and gave the pathway to animal savages, thug cretins that have taken the lives of fellow cops.
Yeah, so on the screen right now, you have the only detective in the NYPD to be fired over the COVID mandate. We had Scott Monroe on here. Eric asked him, would you hire Marlon Bethel? That was the answer we got. Right? And up on the screen, though, right now, I have retired detective first grade Eugene Canepi, past president of the Asian Jade Society, current Pulaski Society board member. Here he is wearing the Dominican flag. Worked in Bob Ganley's office when Bob Ganley was deputy commissioner of labor relations or some shit like that, and they were useless during COVID. So thanks, Bob, for nothing. Appreciate it. And Caban's worked in Caban's office when he was the first step in the PC. Recently hired by the DEA board. Right? This is who needed to get a job, the detective first grade, not the detective that got fired, right? Right, Scott? Thanks, Scott. So for those of you guys, if you could just clip out, those of you guys that are on here by the DEA, if you could just clip out all the stuff that's happening in the chat right now and then replay this, I'm going to email you this clip so that you guys could get it, so you guys don't have to work too hard, because I know you guys aren't that competent. You're not that good. And if you need to change paper, what you do is you open up the packet, you take it, you walk it over to the printer, you open up the bottom shelf of the drawer, and you replace the paper in there, and then you close it. And when the green light comes on, you're good to print.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott. But you know what? At this point, I just don't care about any meetings with him anymore. So you don't even have to bother calling me for any stupid meetings, Scott. Like I've said many times before, it's not about me. It's about like the cops. Because again, you guys think they screwed me. Nah, they screwed you even harder, because to this day, Scott isn't saying anything about what they did to you during the scamdemic. Okay, nothing, not a word. Like it didn't happen. Okay, and now they're trying to take away your healthcare. Again, you took an experiment, right? So the least they could do for you is make sure your healthcare is there. But no, they're trying to take it away. So who did they screw most, me or you? Because I may not have a pension, but I mean, you look at you. Soon they'll be going after that too, But again, like I said, it's all, the NYPD has become like a dog eat dog world of self-interest, where everybody's looking to get their, everybody's looking to get their crumbs. And it's okay if my neighbor's house gets burnt down, but as long as my house is still on the block, it's all good. We even had somebody in a I think it was a Twitter thread who said that, he said words along that lines, but this is, I have a feeling many cops are thinking this, and it's because of what happened during that time that everybody is now looking after their own self-interest, and nobody's realizing that again, the long-term health of things, right? Like the job, it may not affect you now, but it's coming for you too. Okay. So
Think about how far we come, right? I mentioned when the cops turned their back on former Mayor Bill de Blasio at the funeral. That was 2014. So we're going on almost 12 years ago, right? So it's about 11 years ago since the assassination of Lou and Ramos. Think about how far we've come. We have chiefs bending a knee. We have cops terminated for doing their job. We have a discipline matrix that has been held against cops for doing their job. The CCRB is getting more and more power and fighting for their existence, getting more and more control. And now with Zohran Mamdani, who is potentially going to be the mayor. He's the front runner right now. If Zohran Mamdani wins, and everyone's going to be, instead of turning their back on the mayor, they're going to be wearing ball gags. I mean, just think how far we've come. That moment of solidarity where the cops stood together, I don't know if you'll ever see that again. I hope we will, but it sure is in our near future. But instead, we're going to see the cops lined up, God forbid, at a funeral, because if Zohran Mamdani has his way, it won't just be the funeral of cops, but it will be the funeral of social workers, and we'll see cops lined up with ball gags saying, oh, we had to wear it. It's a uniform item. We got 2.5% in our contract. If you wear the blue ball gag at night, you get the nighttime vision ball gags. And that's what they're going to do. And it's rhetorically speaking, yes, it's satire, but it's funny because it's reality. And that's where we're headed. Just think 11 years ago, that solidarity, I don't know if it'll ever come back. And that wasn't because of the unions or because of leadership. That was the time where cops actually had the masculinity. We had alpha males and alpha females, and they stood together and they said enough is enough. Can we ever get back to that? What do you think? And I hope we could.
Pat Donahue asked how come he didn't sit down with the Columbia Association. Because, Pat, you're not paying attention. The Columbia Association president only does what he's told when Pat Gordon tells him what to do. Right? If Pat Gordon tells him he's going to accept an apology, he accepts an apology. If Pat Gordon tells him he's going to sit down with Andrew Cuomo, he's going to sit down with Andrew Cuomo. Columbia Association does not a great representative of Italian males at all. I mean, they're a good representative of soy boys. They're a good representative of soft weak, no spine leftists. That's what they're a good representative. Bunch of vaccinated, double boosted guys sitting out there, with man boobs. Like, they are not good representatives of the thing. Screw the Columbia Association. That's why I stopped my dues from them. That's why I'm no longer a member of them. And I refuse to be. They don't do anything. They don't advocate for their members. They could care less. They never even reached out to me with any of this shit. So screw all them, right? They should. I'm going to send them a bunch of bras, find us unfiltered bras and bikinis that they could wear, keep their chest in. So that's one. Another thing that came up in the chat was Janice Dean. Janice Dean's been going that Andrew Cuomo should be arrested for a very long time online, right? Both of her in-laws were killed as a result of Andrew Cuomo's policies. Janice Dean has been silent. Silent. Why has Janice Dean been silent? That's a great question, right? If you look at my posts, Janice Dean likes a lot of them. But why hasn't she herself been tweeting about it? I'll tell you why, Janice Dean. She works for Fox News. What did we just tell you? This is a multi-billion-dollar campaign by people that you consider conservative news stations. Like I said, Fox News is one of the most liberal news stations you just don't know. They're all libs. They're all lefties. It's a leftist format. So they're just there to appease you and get. They obviously told Janice Dean to not weigh in on this mayoral race. Obviously. I mean, just look at her tweets for the last 4 years. It's all been about Andrew Cuomo and how he should go to jail. And now he's running for mayor and she's silent. But every tweet I put out, she likes it. Why? Because they're obviously censoring her over at Fox News. It's obvious to me. I mean, you guys look at it. I mean, I'm not going to bother her about it. It is what it is. I know what it's like to have your livelihood on the line. And I know Janice Dean needs her job. I know she's suffering from Parkinson's and a lot of stuff. So I don't want anyone to lose their job for avocation. I know what it costs you, and I know what happens to you in life, and I know how it affects your finances, your livelihood, your friendship, your earning potential. I understand it. So I don't want anyone to do that. But yeah. This is a clear propaganda, COVID level style propaganda campaign, same as it was with Eric Adams. I really do not see a path to victory for Andrew Cuomo, and everyone that's voting for Andrew Cuomo is just helping Mondani to get elected, and they're just too stupid to see it. They're the same idiots that was saying only Eric Adams could beat us. It's the same exact argument. Why are conservatives, centrists, moderates, Republicans, conservatives? Why are you sitting there saying we need to go far left progressive for the lesser of two evils? I don't understand it. I'll never understand it. I wouldn't understand it. I wouldn't understand it if Curtis Lewa had zero shot. But it's obvious to me that they understand that he could win this election, and he's the front running dog to win this election. I'm going to show you some evidence of that too. Not these stupid polls, because when you look at what's happening now, you see Zohran Mondani, you see who was a Cuomo-sexual. He used to sit on his couch with the popcorn when Andrew Cuomo had you in lockdown. He's like, that's the tyrant I want to be. Oh, look at Andy. Oh, he's so cool. They had his book in the background. Him and his boyfriend, what's his kid's name? O.C. Che, right? 2 Nepo babies, just like Uncle Andy, right? A Nepo baby uncle, 2 Nepo baby, 2 millionaire kids, want to get involved in politics. They were sitting there. She was like, ooh, Andy, I like Italian guys. And he was eating it, right? And so they were all eating it. And they're sitting there. And if you watch them, what they're doing is they're retweeting Curtis Lewa stuff. And they're like, yeah, Curtis, don't let those billionaires tell you to get out. You stay in this race. You have a chance. Why are they doing that? Simple. They're doing that. So all you Republicans and you conservatives, you look at him like he's a moron. You look at Curtis Lewa like he's a moron. He has no shot. And you're like, oh, my God, look, the socialists want Curtis Lewa to stay in the race. You morons. They're playing you because they know that you're dumb. They know that you easily gaslit. They know they could say anything. Their base doesn't care. Their base is staying strong. Their base is holding in. They're trying to make like they're smarter than everyone. If they weren't worried about Curtis Lewa, they wouldn't even be talking about him. If they weren't worried about Curtis Lewa winning this race, that debate, you wouldn't have saw Andrew Cuomo and Zohran Mondani continuously over and over again invoke each other's name to give the other one more time to talk. You wouldn't have seen, every time you mention a name in debate, You give that person time to talk. What'd they do? They went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Why? Because they needed to run the clock out. They needed to box Curtis Sliwa out because they can't talk policy. Because Curtis Sliwa, even though he was up against NBC, he was up against the moderators, he was up against Cuomo, he was up against Mondani, he easily won that debate. Did it look great? No, because the perception's not the reality. The substance, Sliwa gets an A, Zohran and Cuomo get Fs. Wait till the next debate with Errol Lewis. You're going to see a totally different show.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think when I saw that debate and we did the watch party on X-Base, and I realized that the politicians, they lost control of the conversation, right? Because the conversation was, you need to vote for Eric Adams to save the city so that you don't vote for Mamdani. And since the Norwegian rat dropped out, it was now shifted to, you need to vote for Andrew Cuomo to save the city from it going to Mamdani. So I realized during that debate, they lost control of the conversation because the reality was, if they called out Curtis Sliwa's name or allowed him to talk, then he would have shined even more. And that people that are already behind him would have motivated other people to shift towards Curtis Sliwa. I mean, it's still a free market where you're allowed to vote for whoever you want. But this mayoral candidacy we see right now, this election, this three-man race that we're at right now is nothing like we've ever seen before. We saw a debate where it didn't have any substance. It wasn't about their policies. It wasn't about what they can do for the city. It wasn't about their records. It was about Donald Trump. Who has the balls to stand up to Donald Trump? Who is going to push out the other guy? And they tried to make the appearance that it was a two-man race and that Curtis Sliwa wasn't even there. And that's where I realized they lost control of the conversation because Curtis Sliwa was really starting to pull away. And I really do think, I know people tell me he's got no chance. I believe it's a free market, and I believe Andrew Cuomo has no chance. And now it is a two-man race. And that's Zohran Mamdani and Curtis Sliwa. And if people stop listening to the media and this fear-mongering that if you vote, you're voting for Mamdani and you're subject to Cuomo, think again. Curtis Sliwa can win this thing. He can. Is it a tough road? Absolutely. But realistically and technically, he can win.
Yeah, along that lines, I saw a comment in the chat that sounded a little defeatist to me. You know, from I think it was Breadbasket that said it. It said that that nothing will change for the quality of life for cops. And to that, Breadbasket, you know, the entire issue is that you know, principles. Okay. I think one of the problems with America right now and with the whole Western world, to be honest, is nobody's standing on principle anymore. You know, nobody's standing on the integrity. If people listen, we're not going to change New York City overnight. And I've said before that when Curtis gets in there, he's facing a lot of problems, and a lot of problems that haven't surfaced yet, and I believe are being buried by the industrial complex that runs our city. You know. So he's going to be facing a lot of issues. And the whole point is to stay on principle, because we need somebody who's going to get in there. And when times get tough and there needs to be dramatic changes, which I believe are coming, okay, you need those dramatic changes are coming one way or the other. And unfortunately, the billionaire vampire class, as I like to call them, people like Bill Ackman, are going to eat off of it regardless. Okay, they're going to benefit regardless. Okay, the point though is we need somebody in there who's going to have our interests in mind also, so that we have a seat at the table. Okay, because the other two guys don't give a shit about you. Okay, as we already said before, they don't care about you. Okay, so the point I'm trying to say is about principles. It's you know. We could talk for days about the policies here, okay, and you should read the policies yourself so that you get out of the low information bubble. But the whole point is we gotta be about principles, okay. A lot of people weren't about principles during the scamdemic, and a lot of people are now regretting that they went down that road. Okay, you have to draw a line in the sand, and say, you know what, I'm not down for this. I'm not going along with this. That's it for me. Okay, otherwise, your life is just going to get even worse. The quality of job life that you have is going to get worse, and it's continuing to get worse. And what do you guys do? You sit there quietly. You don't push back because you're worried. You're scared. You're worried about the union. You're worried about your opportunities. Grow a pair, okay? Grow a pair and stick to your principles. Otherwise, enjoy the dump that you're living in there right now. You know.
I mean, look, it is what it is. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, people are just unprincipled, and they believe what they're being told. You know, like Chris Nalina is saying, WABC is promoting Cuomo 24 hours a day. I mean, they always did. Who was the first one that gave him a show right when he resigned as governor? John Catsimatidis, you know, and you see Sid Rosenberg again waffling, you know, oh, I got to make the choice. What's better for the city? I support Curtis. Like, dude, you've been flip-flopping for whatever. You don't support nobody. Like, I get it. You're another one. You're being told what to do. You know, the Catsimatidis is control your mouth, and that's it. It is what it is. So, I mean, again, I take no stock in what the New York Post says, Fox News, Newsmax, CNN, MSNBC, the Washington Post. I mean, these are opinions. There's no longer just a factual reporting. Hey, this happened. This occurred on this day. Everything is opinionated based. Everything is political. WABC has been pro Cuomo, pro Letitia James forever. They're not the number one conservative talk radio in New York City. They might be the number one radio in New York City. I mean, but I don't know. Go over their YouTube. Go over the Finest Unfiltered YouTube. See the difference. See how many people watch their shows. You know, look at this. This is on the ground in Brooklyn. This is on the ground in Brooklyn. This is Attorney Jimmy Wagner, president and founder of the Donald J. Trump King's Republican Club. This is the support that Curtis Lewa has in New York City on the ground. This is why all these attacks are happening. This is why the billionaires are going insane. This is why our social medias are being attacked, saying that we're supporting Mondani. They know Curtis Lewa is up. The polls have inflated numbers for both Mondani and Cuomo, and they've taken away from Cuomo. Cuomo is a lot higher than what you're being told. I believe he's actually there. You see the panic in both of these campaigns. Look at on the ground. And by the way, this isn't just in Brooklyn, Staten Island, Queens, the Bronx. Curtis Lewa is winning in those areas. You know where the worst feedback they're getting though is from in like the middle parts of Staten Island, the more red parts in Staten Island. Like, I don't know, bro. I think I gotta vote for Cuomo because I'm not really sure, bro. It's like, bro, wake up. This is Brooklyn. This is the Bronx. This is Queens. Watch this video.
Cuomo has to go. I'm telling you, out here in Brooklyn, the streets are for Sliwa. Don't let any poll or anyone tell you differently. The streets are for Sliwa.
Everywhere you go, dude, his signs are all over the place.
Well, that's the point, right? I said realistically, Cuomo has no shot, and Curtis Lewa can win this. Is it a tight race? Absolutely. This is a tight race. I think this is going to be a tight race till the end. But I think Curtis Lewa really is starting to get some steam. And I've said a while back, the best thing that Curtis Lewa can do is continue just to be who he is and show his authenticity. And his authentic persona is that he's not your typical insider politician. He's not someone who's pushed by mainstream. He's the outsider when it comes to politics, but he's the insider when it comes to New York City. He's been a leader in New York City when it wasn't even popular. He is a man that still takes the subway. He loves New York City sports. He loves New York City people. He knows his way around the boroughs. He knows New York City people, and New York City loves him. You can see it. You know, when I just have conversations with people about Curtis Lewa, they love the guy. He's a man they love. All he has to do is just be out there and continue not to be a politician, continue to be himself, be the man with the red beret, be a crime fighter. That's who he is. He's a crime fighter.
Yeah. Like I said, Brett Basket, I'm not picking on you or anything. I'm just saying we got to be about principles here and be unbending to them, and that holds true for anybody who gets in that office. For Curtis, for God help us if it's those other two clowns, but you got to hold everybody accountable, and stick to your principles, and that's how we win, and that's how we get back from the edge of the cliff.
Yeah, it's funny too. I was watching. You know what's a real good indicator of where everything is though? Watch the Breakfast Club interviews. Watch the Breakfast Club interviews with Mondani. Then watch the one with Sliwa. Cuomo hasn't went there because I think he got exposed already with Hillary pulling out a hot sauce, because that's what he would do. Yeah, I got the hot sauce here, with Hillary's hot sauce moment. Sliwa didn't pull out the hot sauce. He didn't. He told him straight up what he thought about everything, and if you look at them, they were super impressed. And that's what's happening on the streets of New York City as well. And I really do think there's a huge panic in the Cuomo campaign now. You got Frank Carone now out there. He's on social media talking about that Slee was selfish and he only has self-interest and he can't be trusted. I'm like, dude, what did you just read the paper yesterday? Like, you're in the thing for being on a wiretap, trying to get a mob to run the tow truck, a contract again with the city. Like, you want to talk about self-interest, bro? I think you should delete that account on social media. It's like, dude, nobody believes you. Have zero credibility, absolutely zero credibility. So it's amazing. But you see the backlash, like watch what's happening on social media. I think that's the real key indicator there. Another thing, this Friday, we're going to start something new because a bunch of people have been asking us to do this. And I don't think that it'll be a good format. And I think we all agree it's not going to be a good format to have callers call in because it's just too much work in the background to have that. So, but what we are going to do is we're going to give you the Finest Unfiltered phone number, right? So now the phone's not going to be manned, so don't expect to hear, Eric breathing heavy on the other end or like sound like something's in his mouth,
like, John, I'll put in a ball game.
But listen, we're going to leave you the guys the option. If you guys want, call up. Leave us a message or a text message. If we get anything good or anything funny, obviously we're not going to share your info unless you want it to be shared. If you want us to keep it anonymous, we'll keep it anonymous. Just write anonymous on it. Leave us a brief voicemail or a brief text message. If something you want to tip us about or something you want to let us know about, that number is 718-506-2867. So that's the Finest Unfiltered's official number. All right. So go over there, check us out, leave us a voicemail, leave us a text message, and yeah, I think it should be fun. Fridays when we do the round table, we'll try to bring one or two of those in, if it's funny voicemail. So just open it up. I don't think we're not at the point yet that we could take in calls. At some point we will be, but right now we're just not there.
I'm anticipating like some jerky boys messages, or someone with a ball gang. I think, we thought about it. As John said, we thought about pondering the idea of having call-ins. And I think it could be good, but the problem is we have to vet them and also with the chat. So it's a lot. So with the voicemails, we'll be able to vet them. We'll play it, and like I said, if you want to be anonymous, we have always kept anonymity. So if anyone doesn't want their identity revealed, we always keep our sources close to the chest, and we never reveal them, obviously, to protect you. So we understand that. With that being said, don't be afraid to call in if you want to express something. There's so many opportunities for you to engage with the Finest Unfiltered, and we want to engage with you. That is what is so unique about this platform, is we care that our friends and listeners are part of the conversation, and haters also. Unless it gets so crazy, you're welcome on the chat. We encourage you to have your First Amendment speech. And that's what's great about this platform. But there's other avenues. You can leave a voicemail. You go on the website. You can leave a comment there. So please, I encourage you, if you're a friend that listens to the podcast, if you have not yet subscribe to the website, thefinestunfiltered.com. We're not going to send you mass emails. Subscribe to thefinestunfiltered.com. Check out the newsletters. Read the articles. They're easy reads, but it's good information. If you want, leave a comment. We will get back to you. Same thing with the voicemails. We may not get back to you right away, but we will. That's what's so important. Your engagement, we appreciate it. It keeps the conversation going and the content. Thank you.
Yeah. One of the most unique things about us is that, like, the regular faces we see in the chat there, we see you guys like Bread Basket, we see Hunter, Stephen S, Patrick Donahue, KB, Sleepy Joe. These are might as well be members of the cast, because they're regular faces that we see in the chat, and this is just another avenue for participation and to get people involved in the show. So again, we always appreciate you guys joining us and being part of us too.
Yeah. Sleepy Joe says, "Why is crime up 50% in PSA 7, Lieutenant Dim?" You know why. They emasculated the police department. I'm not there anymore. John's not there. Marlon's not there. Sal, Ron, Rob, and all the cops are out, man. They don't want cops anymore.
Yeah. Andre Jackson donated to the podcast. He said, police officer Jose Collazo is being honored today with a street naming dedication at 12 p.m. Ceremonies at the PAL 991 Longwood Avenue, 10459 corner of Longwood Avenue and Beck Street. So yeah, police officer Jose Collazo, he recently died, I believe, in May of 9/11 cancer. So it's at the age of 64. So rest in peace to police officer Collazo and his family. So if you guys are around, you're in that area, go check it out. Go over to the street naming ceremony, pay some respects. Appreciate you weighing in, Andre. One last thing before we get out of here. Marlon, you had posted something the other day about Jim Walden's housing plan and how it was directly tied to Bill Aikman. Can you just walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, so let me quickly pull it up so that I could specifically talk about it. But I gotta apologize for this because I should have I've been too focused on like his policing plan. I should have went into his housing plan months ago when he first dropped it. But the issue is that aspects of his plan come directly from Bill Aikman, if not benefiting Bill Aikman. First of all, Jim Walden is that policy for housing is not too dissimilar from Mamdani or Cuomo's. They all plan to push more government dollars into affordable housing. Now, we can argue whether that's smart or not, but the main problem here is that when you're doing it, because they're going to do it to help the billionaire vampire class, prevent them from defaulting on a lot of these properties, when what they really should do is negotiate from a position of strength and wait till those properties default and get them on the cheap, or be able to negotiate terms much more favorable to the taxpayer. Okay, but the specific part that I highlighted was his Kids on Poverty program, KIP program. Now, if you go to my Twitter, which I'll post a link shortly, you'll be able to see it. Okay, it's specifically, he says that the plan calls for investing $10K, creating an investment account essentially for kids as soon as they're born, and putting $10K of government dollars into that account. And by the time they're age 25, they possibly could withdraw, because he says that there should be conditional terms for withdrawal, including achievable goals, including school attendance. Okay, sounds reasonable, but the question is, who's making those achievable goals? Okay, what if that kid says, you know what, I want a trade job. I'm going to become a plumber. I'm going to become an electrician. And by the way, those jobs are making a lot of money right now. Okay, and as the white collar jobs, computer jobs get continually get outsourced, they'll get replaced by AI and automation. You're not replacing the plumber or electrician with the robot. Not yet, not for a couple decades. That ain't happening. So those are jobs where kids, in high school, I would be pointing them to. But there are conditions to the payout of this $10K. And in the policy statement, he says that if we allocate 10K for each child at birth, that investment could be worth 100K by the time each child reaches 25, which is completely stupid, because 25, it'll be worth 10K, possibly worth 10K in how much dollars? Is that real or nominal? Okay, because because we have a thing called inflation. Okay, so that 100K is not going to have 100K of current day purchasing power. Okay, and also this ignores the fact that we could have a market down cycle when it's in 25 years, when it's come time for these kids to withdraw that money. So this entire thing is like a gift to Wall Street, okay? Because that amounts to $25 million of taxpayer dollars every year being funneled to Wall Street, so Wall Street could play with, could eat off fees. People like Bill Ackman will eat off fees, and now they have 25 million to play with in the markets. Okay, $25 million going into their portfolio investments. Okay, that possibly could get withdrawn by the holders of those accounts. Okay, possibly could, because if you don't meet their achievable goals, whatever those are going to be, then you're not going to be able to withdraw it. Okay, so this is for those of you who keep saying Mamdani's bringing us socialism. Oh, let's vote for Cuomo. Well, guess what? Okay, Bill Ackman is an ally of Cuomo. So do you think they're not talking into Cuomo's ear, trying to get something similar passed on the Cuomo? Okay, so Mamdani is going to give us socialism, but things like this aren't socialism already, you know? So I wish I had looked at this earlier, because I would have just crushed, Jim Walden on this. This is garbage. Okay, this is socialism for you, the peasants out there, and capitalism for them. Okay, this is we're literally taking taxpayer money and giving it to Wall Street. Do you know how much money? But even if those kids were to get 100K in 25 years, Wall Street has already made billions off of this, okay, and leveraged it to hell, okay. So you're not helping the kids on the street, okay. You're not helping the kids born in New York City. You're helping the billionaire vampire class of make nothing money managers like Bill Ackman, okay. They make no product in factories, okay. All they do is manage money and siphon more government dollars into their pockets. Okay. So yeah. So like I said, I had a busy weekend on Twitter, and I said some more stuff about Bill Ackman and what he's trying to do with Cuomo, but the bottom line here is you guys who you need to dig into these stuff and realize that what you're being presented at isn't the truth. Okay, and they're trying to deceive you while continually drain the products of your labor from you. Okay, so yeah,
that's a great point, and I'm glad you went down that rabbit hole, because I remember, when I was with the NYPD and I would educate some of the young cops about their pensions, and they really didn't understand it. And I said, look at the way your pensions are being invested, and some of them are terrible investments that they do with the pensions, but the city uses that money. And a lot of times the cops were under this impression that they should never take a pension loan. I said, okay, there are times that you should take a pension loan depending on what the severity is. Maybe, if it's a comparison of a credit card debt. I understand you don't want to liquidate all your pension money, but it is your money that's utilized by the city, and they invest it. And that's why they didn't understand. And I would always say, look at it this way. If it was really so terrible and they weren't investing your money, why did they initially make it impossible for tier 3 to actually take a pension loan? Because that was money that they were using for investment. So I think you're spot on, Marlon. I think that's a great job. And I'm sure you'll do some more digging around. And I think it's actually more fitting that you didn't expose it before, but it shows now, especially that Jim Walden stepped out of this race and has been behind Andrew Cuomo. It brings everything full circle. So shout out, brother. Great job. Spot on.
Yeah, if quickly, I see Patrick Donninger who basically is asking how this relating to housing. Well, this isn't Jim Walden's housing plan, first of all. And he also states in there these funds will basically, that he says basically 100K would equal to 6 years of rent stabilized apartment. So basically the thinking is by the time these kids grow up into adults and can get an apartment of their own, they have basically a fund ready here to help pay for the apartment, which is completely ridiculous. Okay, it's completely ridiculous. The main problem with housing in this city is because it's rent stabilized. And the reason why it's rent stabilized is because they don't want these apartments they don't want the free market to come into play. Because if the free market comes into play, then the value of these properties declines based upon how much revenue that's coming in, how their availability on the market, and so on and so forth. And the bottom line with that is, if those properties drop in value, the securities and the stuff Wall Street has leveraged on them decreases also, which hurts the billionaire vampire class like Bill Ackman. It hurts their portfolio, and that's why rent stabilization continues, and it doesn't really benefit the people on the ground.
I think you make a great. I just want to say. Yeah. Sorry, I just want to say I think he makes a great point, because what Marlon is saying about the free market, right? It's where people get to decide what supply and demand. But when the elites are in control of it, they make the decision. So I think you're spot on, brother.
Well, the other thing is that they want to back our pensions behind the real estate market. The affordable, not the real estate market, the affordable housing market, which is basically like, I'm gonna put our pension money in cars. We're gonna buy cars and watch them depreciate. Like that's what it is, because it's not like investing in single family homes or multifamily homes or buildings or commercial real estate. It's investing in affordable housing is a lot different than that, and that is not a good investment. Sorry, it's just not. And so it really is. It's very nefarious. Mike Freed says, wouldn't that be a good thing to help the city overall? So, but just think about this, Mike. Like, think what he's saying. Like, your tax money. Like, first think about, like, why is Bill Ackman so concerned with New York City all of a sudden? Why did he wake up? Where's he been the last 20 years? How come all of a sudden he cares? Right? And so what Marlon's saying here is, and what the plan actually dictates, is that you're going to get, for every kid that's born in New York City, $10,000 of taxpayer funds are going to go over to the hedge funds. We're going to send $10,000. So that's whatever Marlon said, about $250 million a year based upon the birth rate and all that stuff. About $250 million a year is going to flow right to Bill Ackman. And then if you do all the right things, you say all the right, like, don't be like John McCarry on social media. Like, if you say all the right things and you do everything that Bill Ackman thinks you should do, then he'll give you that money. Oh, and you could use that money to live in affordable housing, because obviously you're a useless mouth breather, right? You don't really, you're taking up food in the market. Like, this is how these people think of us. This what's happening right now in New York City and what's happening in this country is there is not a two-party system in this country. We just think there is. Like, we have cheerleaders on one side or the other. You're a leftist, socialist, you're a hardcore Republican. And guess what? The elite control all of you, and they just throw this little game and they sprinkle little things around, and we all sit there and we argue about it while they rob us blind. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. $10,000 a year, $10,000 at first, and we invest it. What would it be if that family just invested that money on its own? If they put it in a CD, if they put it in the highest yield CD that there was for 25 years, that compounded, it would be a lot more money than what they're telling you, and there wouldn't be any stipulations on it, right? But that's not what they're saying. Right? They're just saying, what are we saying? Oh, we're just going to continue to funnel money. The graft continues. Never mind the city of yes, which Andrew Cuomo and Zohar Mamdani both support, which is basically going to rape and pillage every piece of land that's left in New York City. And yes, people talk about how ultimately the socialists want to outlaw private property, right? Because that's communism. They come after profit, property, and all that stuff. Not for them, just for you. But ultimately, Andrew Cuomo is going to come after private property as well. Do you guys remember? Eric Adams, what he was saying? To put migrants in your homes, how much he was paying money. I ran the numbers on like putting migrants in my apartments. I mean, I would have been in a year, I would have probably made like $1 million, and I still didn't do it. I mean, I'm actually negative for the properties I own, but whatever. I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, that's ridiculous. They would pay you per room. I was like, this is sick. How are we affording this? But who's ultimately benefiting from it? It's ultimately always going back into it's not going to the small landlord. It's not going to the middle class and the working class. It's not going to your kids. Who's benefiting? It's the elite. They're robbing your tax money. They're taking it and they're giving you crumbs in return.
That's why I think it's important we have this conversation, right? Because we're talking about a free market, right? A free market is when the people decide what's worth buying and selling, not the politicians. And what they're doing also, if they're saying, hey, every kid gets 10,000 and then it accumulates to 100,000, maybe they'll decide to cap and say, okay, with this money, you could only purchase, if it's not affordable housing, you could only purchase real estate in these locations, right? To keep people boxed into a certain area so the elites get to buy what they want. So it's not a free market anymore. That's why, Marlon, you're spot on. We're talking about the comparison of a free market and a controlled market. A free market, people decide what they want to buy, what they want to sell. They can utilize their credit. But in a market that's controlled by politicians, the politicians determine where people live, what they buy, what they sell. So you're absolutely right. Who makes that determination of when you could get that money and why you could get that money? What are you willing to buy? Are you going to buy what you're told to buy? It's not a free market anymore. So this is scary stuff, but this is really what's going on. That's why initially I said Eric Adams had a chance to win. Besides the fact that I don't know if I would bet against Eric Adams. He's like the Norwegian rat. He survives anything. But the special interest groups, special interest elites were getting behind Eric Adams for this very reason, because they don't want a free market. They want a controlled environment, a controlled market where they determine who gets to buy and sell, and they get to buy and get the big locations, and the affordable housing is eventually going to those kids.
Yeah. So just to close this out, I keep hearing these politicians complaining about affordable housing in New York City. Something to think about here. This is a state problem, okay? Because the fact that 70% of New York State's population lives downstate, nobody thinks that's kind of a problem here. New York State is a beautiful state, okay? You go upstate and you see all the land that's upstate and all these areas. It's very beautiful, okay? Right? But there are towns upstate that are like, it's like a meth town that time is forgotten. Nobody's living there. That the wealth and the business has been drained from those towns. They were former Rust Belt cities that used to build things. But since America thought in their infinite wisdom to outsource everything to China, then it's drained the wealth from those towns. In result, the economy that's created, the abstract economy of money managers, has just benefited the vampire class. But there's a lot of cheap land up there and a lot of cities that needs rebuilding. If there's an affordable housing crisis here, the city and the state should build upstate, okay? Build it upstate, build it cheaper upstate, right? And fix the railroad system so people could have a high-speed train to New York City and work in New York City, okay? That's how you fix the housing problem, okay? And you do it much cheaper than building. What they want to build is these luxury buildings in New York City that have like just a handful of apartments for the peasants, okay? And that's not a solution at all. And they want to build these buildings in single family neighborhoods with the city of yes. So they want to destroy your neighborhood to not really solve the problem. And so that is the bottom line. This is the main problem here.
100%. RH said if we just supported legislation allowing immigrants to work, they would be working. We do support legislation to allow immigrants to work. My niece's boyfriend lives in Italy. He comes here on a visa. He works. He's in cybersecurity. He does very well. I mean, although, you know, he has problems getting in and out of the country sometimes because we support legal immigration. We don't support people just coming over the border and doing what they want and expecting all the constitutional rights and expecting the ability to vote and taking jobs from people that are here. We support controlled immigration. We support limited immigration. We don't support opening up. Will you open your apartment door, RH, and just let us all walk in as we fall? Come in, take all your food, take all your medicine, take all your money? No, same thing. The country operates just like a household. If it doesn't work in your household, it's not gonna work for a country. It's that simple. Doesn't work for you to run up your credit cards. It doesn't help for a government either. So I think that's it. I think we could wrap it up here. I know we were a lot on the mayoral race today, but I think, you know, until, you know, we're not too long away. So, you know, it's going to be the main topic of conversation going for a while, a lot of twists and turns, but that's just what's happening right now. There's this whole push that Sliwa needs to drop out so that maybe Cuomo could get some of his voters and maybe he might have a chance to win. Does that make any sense to anybody? I mean, like, because it doesn't make any sense to me. And like Cuomo's all over Fox News today saying this. I mean, it's ridiculous to me. I'm like, this is, and you're supposed to be a conservative, a Republican, a centrist, a moderate, and you're going to sit there and be like, oh, yeah. Curtis Leawood needs to drop out so that maybe Andrew Cuomo could win. No. You know what needs to happen? Cuomo needs to take his shellacking and go back to whatever cave he came out of, because he hasn't been in New York City. Nobody's seen him for the last 4 or 5 years. So go back to wherever he was hiding, wherever he was, in Patchogue or whatever part of New York he was from. Go back to that little mansion you were hiding out in. Stay there. Hang out in the Hamptons with Cats and Matitas. Do your radio show that absolutely nobody listens to. And just that's it. Move on, bro. It's over. You know, that's it. Curtis Leawood for me.
Well, that was my point. If we test logic, Bill Ackman telling Curtis Leawood that he needs to drop out of this race so that Andrew Cuomo could save the city from Zohran Mamdani doesn't meet logic. Because as we've been saying, the vote for Cuomo is a vote for Mamdani, or a vote for Mamdani is a vote for Cuomo, or vice versa. Those two split the vote. Voters that are on the fence for Zohran Mamdani or Cuomo are not voters for Curtis Leawood. So Curtis Leawood's not even in this conversation we talk about those two. It doesn't meet logic. So I think that's what we have to talk about, logic here. So I think there's a lot of stuff we explored today when it comes to this mayoral race. It's just it's getting so thick. We're at the meat of it. We're getting close. We're about 2.5 weeks away, and I think we're in for a hell of a ride. I think it's going to be a close race. But if people actually still believe that it's a free vote market, I do believe Curtis Leawood can win. He's an outsider politician, but he's an insider New Yorker. He's the real New Yorker. He's real authentic in this. He's a real New Yorker, and there's a lot of people out there who we consider low information because they're just not paying attention to politics, as Marlon said earlier. Some people are just extremely busy with their lives. They're busy at work, and they may not know the legislation, but they know Andrew Cuomo destroyed the entire state. They know that Zohran Mamdani is a complete radical socialist, and they know Curtis Leawood is the man that actually walks the streets and knows where the subway is. Just like they say in the movie The Warriors, do you even know how to find the subway? Curtis Leawood knows how to find the subway. That's a true New Yorker right there. A man that walked the streets of New York City. I mean, when we had Curtis Leawood on here, if anybody has an opportunity to watch it, there was always a lot of, kind of just mystique behind the whole red beret. And when he explained why he wears it, I said, wow, this is a real good dude. And he said he wears that red beret to honor his guardians that have lost their lives or been injured, supporting and fighting public safety. So with that, that's a true New Yorker. Let's get behind him. I do believe he could win. The reality is he can win. The reality is Cuomo can't win, and it's just a mirage for you to vote for Zohran Mamdani. Thank you, everyone. On Monday morning, we appreciate it. Marlon, John, awesome as always. Finest Unfiltered. What do you got, Marlon?
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining us today. And the bottom line is we need a guy in there who's gonna have our voice. We need a seat at the table because when the tough times are coming, we need somebody who's going to keep us in mind for the kind of changes that are coming, you know. But thanks for joining us. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you guys on patrol stay safe out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Last thing, Pat Donahue. We'll end with Pat Donahue. He said, asking Sliwa to drop out is like hoping a guy breaks up with your crush, thinking you have a better chance of dating your crush. I mean, dude, it's ridiculous. And then someone else said here, like, listening to cops say that we should vote for Cuomo makes them want to cringe. And I couldn't agree more, man. It's absolutely disgusting. All right, people, we'll be back Wednesday. I think we're going to have Heshi Tichler on, a longtime advocate in Borough Park. You guys might remember him during COVID. He was the guy that was out there with a pair of balls telling Cuomo, screw you. And he was actually cutting chains off the fences and opening the parks for the kids. He got arrested a lot, like the guy that was supporting for Mayor, Curtis Sliwa, because he got arrested civilly with civil disobedience, like disobeying the government. That's what we should all be. We should all be civilly disobedient when the government pushes down on it. So looking forward to that. That should be a good one. Check out Sal Greco show tomorrow. That'll be at 13:05 or 1:05 p.m. Eastern time. And then followed by the 10-4 Tavern Tuesday night, and then followed by Executive Perspective. Not sure what any of them are doing yet as far as who they're having on or what the topics are, but I'm sure the mayoral race will be coming up. We'll be covering that a lot. So, all right, guys, find us Unfiltered. We'll be back at you. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?